Wintermelon frost is minty soil.
Warming up.
It's so hard to type in this thing. But it's okay. It's just the nature of the game.
The nature of the game being it's a huge box.
Yes. I tagged the U into the Facebook post. And then
Okay, I still don't see it. There, it's on YouTube. Loading. YouTube is loaded. Loaded. Facebook still waiting. Oh, there, I can see it now.
I tagged you in the post. You
Yeah,
should
I'm just
see
waiting for it to appear.
which one.
Facebook is loaded.
But now I need to get.
Hey, Andre. No, we're not wearing shirts. We're wearing pajamas.
Are they still pajamas if we're only wearing the tops?
So they're... Because when you wear the bottoms only, you still call them jammies. So these are paws. Hey, Kenny. No, they're pajamas. See, they're like super stretchy material. In care of my sister when
It was for a themed
birthday
birthday celebration.
for the birthday. Andre asks, all tops, no bottoms. Well, clothes have to be versatile nowadays.
Yeah.
Kenny says pajas.
Yeah, when people say it's like just a pure experience, I'm like, you're boring. You're boring. You're basic.
It's like
Goodbye.
super stretchy.
Yeah, they're the same shirt style, same size shirt.
But yeah, look at all the dinos. Look at all the dinos.
We should have, if we're talking about on and off, like we should do theme episodes, like all the games we own 2 copies of, or more than 1 copy of, or episodes by designer. We could probably do an episode of, because Toby wanted minis. Well, not really minis, meeples and meeple analogs. It is the only reason why we have ever been tempted to get Rampage the game. Just because of the meeples, not because of the gameplay.
That's true.
The game itself was kind of meh.
Yeah. That's true.
And Dinosaur Island is totally an example of that.
It was also the reason we started with the Tiny Epic game stuff.
Was it? I thought it was just because they were small.
What was the first one we ever owned for Tiny Epic?
Space.
Was it Space? Wasn't there somewhere else?
Space.
Yeah.
You got Space. And then it turned out you even had expansions with it.
Yeah, that's why I don't think that was the first, because it was a Kickstarter.
No, it was the first. It wasn't Quest.
Or we played Quest first.
No, you get Space first. What? What are you looking at?
The Final Frontier. So, hi Mitch. Hi Mitch. Hi Mitch.
Games we have complete expansions and or collector's editions of. That is also a possibility. It is growing in number.
Well, if it were expansions and or collector's editions.
And the expansions is hard because there's a lot of games that we have a lot of expansions. So and it's hard to say you're complete because there's always these promo shit.
And those regional expansions.
Yeah, that we're never gonna get our hands on. So like we have a very good collection of Robinson Crusoe, but I'm still tempted to get the freaking treasure chest just to simplify my life of getting stuff.
And then you have stuff like, we practically have all of Legendary.
Yes.
But Legendary also came out with those the special card edition.
I have most of them.
No, the special one. I think it was a 3D card, or was it a alternate artist collection?
We have the alternate artist.
All of them?
Not all.
Yeah, I know
most.
there were those. Yeah, we really had to source them out.
I had to eBay them.
Yeah,
I pay the scalper on eBay.
Yeah.
And then like how do we count Terraforming Mars, where we have all the expansions and then we're getting the big box, which makes it look like a collector's edition.
And then we're not
But it's
planning,
not a collector's
and then
edition.
we're not planning to get the Ares expansion because it's not really the expansion. It's a standalone game.
Yeah. Or it's like Carcassonne and we never buy the catapult because we don't like what it adds to the game.
But I guess it's good enough to start now because we're already talking about games. This is Toby. This is Toby.
This is Rafi.
This is Toby.
I'm not saying you're Rocky. I'm saying this is Rocky.
This is Toby. We have to have the beats. Come on. You complain we're not following the beats.
Just follow the script.
Exactly.
I've already said my line. You're supposed to
It's
say
supposed to be the right timing.
Let's see it. Start again.
This is Toby.
This is Rocky.
And if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Pride, a little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
It's completely unscripted and not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us. We talk about everything and anything random live.
And if it's not your first time here, you're probably used to this. But thank you so much for joining us again. Tonight's episode is about a game that we really enjoy playing.
Yes, we do.
We love playing it with the soundtrack, despite the fact
It is
that
not the soundtrack. We play it.
with a soundtrack.
We have a soundtrack.
Despite the fact that the soundtrack goes into very dark areas.
Yeah. Oh, did you bring it up? Where's the dinosaur?
Oh, it fell. It fell there.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah, there. Grab it.
Ah! Why did you let it fall?
Ah. Because it got buried in amber. Did you find it?
Actually, oh, I think it's very far.
But that game is Dinosaur Island. And notice this is quite a hefty box that it keeps popping open on its own. But yes, the game is Dinosaur Island. Sorry, I just moved it so I can make it stand, but it's not too heavy. There. So what is Dinosaur Island? Dinosaur Island is a 1 to 4 player game by Jonathan Gilmore and Brian Lewis. In this game,
and appropriately published by Pandasaurus Games.
yes, this game has you handling your own dinosaur theme park, where you collect DNA, research these sequences in order to bring extinct dinosaur species back to life. And by hiring employees, upgrading your facility, and making sure that people don't get eaten, you find the way to win the game.
So the game obviously takes great inspiration from the likes of Jurassic Park, and as is the title of this episode, if you get the reference. But I don't know, there's just so much about the game that one, it's a super love. It shows a lot of love for dinosaurs in a theme park. It shows a lot of love for the 90s, which is like the peak period when Dinosaur Mania was really big, and Jurassic Park as a movie came out. The books were a little earlier, but then it was
the movie
it's a
that
whole
made-
thing. The movie made it
Yes.
really enter popular culture, and I mean, like, I always felt like when the game came out,
Hey, Karen.
and then we thought like, my God, how come no one thought of doing this sooner? It's such a no-brainer, and this is like in an age when you have games like Unfair that also try to celebrate the whole theme park thing, but Dinosaur Island just takes a very unique approach to it. And when we found out, in addition, that it's a worker placement game, oh my God, we were all over it. So much so that we have the deluxe edition. I forget, did you just get the deluxe edition on the secondary market, or you Kickstarted this? You backed the Kickstarter.
I think we backed the
You backed the
Because
Kickstarter.
we were worried if it would actually arrive.
Yes. And then for Totally Liquid, I backed the
Yes.
Totally Liquid. Okay.
So Dinosaur Island has, as mentioned, worker placement. But beyond that, it has tile placement mechanics as you build your park. It has set collection, when you try to build the different, oh my gosh, pens.
No, I think you're talking about the attractions.
Attractions.
Attractions build sets.
Yeah, where you
where
try
it's
to get more
food,
points.
merchandise, all that stuff.
And then there's also dice rolling and action points, because in this game, DNA is generated by the dice that's rolled, and the dice that are not collected become threat values. Let's open this heavy box. And as mentioned, inspired by that certain movie.
In fact, the official first player rule is that the first player is the last person to have extracted DNA from Amber.
This is part of the Kickstarter release. It's they call it POBs, for those who don't know what POBs are.
Milk caps.
So every player goes through the 4 phases in the game, with the first phase being the area where the dice are rolled to generate the different types of DNA. The different kinds of dinosaurs can be purchased, and it's sad that they all have Triceratops here. But
yeah, but it's an herbivore, a small carnivore, and a large carnivore.
You have the area here on the side that allows you to upgrade your
DNA
storage, allowing you to store more DNA. And you have the area here, if you don't feel you need your scientists, then you can use them instead as Chris Pratts.
Workers. Park workers.
There's the second phase, which then becomes the phase that many are familiar with when it comes to a lot of worker placement. Although this is not the worker placement portion yet.
Yes.
Because this is the part where cards come out in the market, and by purchasing certain cards, you can get upgrades to your facility. You can buy attractions. You can hire specialists. Or you could even, in this case here, spend to buy DNA outright because other players stole the DNA you wanted to get.
His name is Toby.
The third phase is where the player boards kick in, with each player having their own board.
I don't know if this is the standard board or the deluxe board, because it's beautiful. It's a double layer board with recessed areas for the cubes on both sides. Because like if you recently, it's only the recent Terraforming Mars games that finally added this innovation to their boards. So we have this here. Each player has 2 boards, which is annoying. Hey, board. You wanted to say it. All right. So each player has 2 boards. One for tracking your resources. This is where you track your DNA. This is where we track your level of security, and you track the level of threat, and you put your upgrades. And notice you only have 6 slots in total. Then the other side, which is super blank at the beginning.
No, the other board. Not
the other board, is your park. And you'll notice that it's the player boards are labeled as phase 3 and 4. So the main player turns happen on your individual boards, not on a shared action space like a standard worker placement game.
In the third phase, that's when you play your Chris Pratt workers into the different facilities here in order to generate money, increase security, create dinosaurs, and other things. But on the fourth phase is where you then decide to allocate which areas the dinosaurs go to, where do visitors go, and which visitors get eaten if your security is not up to par.
I like how we don't even pretend like this isn't a game where, what's this? Like in Galaxy Trucker, we always like when parts of the ship that have habitation modules get destroyed, they are safely ejected into escape pods that return them home. In this game,
they're eaten.
Even if the dinosaurs are herbivores, they will die.
They're trampled to death.
Yes. So be careful.
So we've removed all those boards, and look, the box is still full.
The deluxe edition has a very different layout and some very heavy components that destroy the inner lining. The inner lining is not that detailed, to be fair. And then in addition, there are no instructions on how to put things in the box.
But they will fit.
They will fit. There are very helpful people on Board Game Geek who have documented their style of storing it. And we have adopted one of those methods because it seems to be the easiest to work with.
So We have the bag.
The bag.
Because the bag is where you put the people, the visitors.
The visitors, the VIPs, and the hooligans.
There are over 60 normal visitors and around 10 VIPs. So when you when you grab from the bag, you never know what type you'll get. However, there are the hooligans, and hooligans don't pay when they visit your park.
And they go first because they're rude kids who push them to the front of the line.
And even worse,
they run fast and avoid dinosaurs.
So they do not get eaten. So you have that bag to keep track. You have the bag for the visitors. You have the bag for the VIPs and hooligans.
Commercial moment. There's something about plastic meeple figures that is not as satisfying as wooden meeples. But I understand the decision to go with these plastic pieces for the game because there's already so much going on in this game.
Quick cutaway, Mitch shares. Color theme reminds you of Denver the Last Dinosaur.
Another beautiful artifact of the late 80s, early 90s.
Yes, and that is so much what this world is about. Each player has their own bag of Chris Pratt tokens, scientists, small cardboard and plastic pieces to keep track of their security, their threat, and the like. There is a number of very nice...
The dice are beautiful dice. These are the DNA dice.
Weighted dice that determine the DNA and any other bonuses you may get.
They're just a little big in the sense that because like realistically, like in a full game, you will roll all the dice in the bag every time.
And the size is really good because when
it's readable.
When it's on the table, everyone can read it easily without having to get too close.
Yeah, you don't need to have that one player. Could you read out all the dinosaur dice for us? Thanks.
And then the amber color, again, makes you think of the amber. Then we have a lot of the cardboard money.
Which you don't need if you have the deluxe edition.
But if you have the deluxe edition, you get the heavy metal coins.
These are heavier than the Splendor poker chips, which for the longest time were like the gold standard for us for beautiful components.
Probably, okay, you try.
What? They're smaller, but they're heavier.
You think it's 5 pounds?
I don't know.
Possibly more, no?
Yeah, they're very heavy.
Very heavy.
This destroys the box.
Okay.
The coins destroy the box. Mitch asked, how come Chris Pratt and not Jeff Goldblum? Because Jeff Goldblum was a mathematician and not a park ranger type character. You need someone rugged. I would potentially accept Alan Grant, but he went crazy after that airplane moment of Alan.
Hey, Urim. So we have this, a small amber piece, which can be used as your first player marker.
Wow, we never use that.
Because we prefer to use this, the fast pass. Ah! Get away, run. There. And of course it was covered by the name. We couldn't see it.
It's a slap band. How 90s can you get? Don't you? Oh my God. There were like everyone is into these things. There were watches that used these things. It was crazy.
And with all that, look, the box is still not empty. So let's continue. We have cards. These are the plot twists, and a number of them are used each game. That makes sure every game is different. We have the collection of objectives and specialists. Objectives are what determine when the game ends, because there's always at least 1 plus number of players' objectives in the game.
Oh my God. Okay, Mina says, it's nice to have a Jurassic-themed gaming party. Thinking of Jurassic-styled food that I plan to serve. I will dredge up one of the most horrible puns from my sister's school years, where they had a barbecue stand at a school fair, and they called it, Jurassic Pork.
We have the cards that are used for solo games. We have the extra purple die as one of the expansions from the Kickstarter.
It does scary things.
We have the collection of different tiles from upgrades to dinosaur attractions to dinosaur recipes and the pens which dinosaurs can be kept in. Each of the tiles have different little details on how many dinosaurs can be kept, how much they cost, and this and that. But lastly, we have a very fat bag of
plastic dinosaur meeple figures.
Pterodactyls. More pterodactyls.
And this is one of those games
Brontosaurus.
where there is no systemic effect
Stegosaurus.
depending on which dinosaur type you get from the bag.
Don't know what it's called.
Ankylosaurus. In fact,
T-Rex.
you could actually mix dinosaur figures in a single pen because it technically doesn't matter. But of course, nobody does this. Everybody gets distinct dinosaurs in each pen and does not mix because you want your park to make sense.
Of course, we have this guy.
Hadrosaur.
And I haven't shown the last one.
Where's the tiny one? No, you have a Triceratops.
Yeah,
That's one.
The tiny one's in the other bag. In the other box.
Wala din ba dito?
Wala. No tiny ones. You mean the ano?
Wow, it suddenly pours out.
There.
Well, there's a raptor.
Yeah, and the guy who rams.
Yes, the hard head one.
Yeah. So those are them.
Yeah, and this is like because I think we just got extra dinosaurs, but this is really the dinosaurs in the base game. You can run out of particular types of dinosaurs if everybody keeps getting that type of dinosaur. But again, technically, there's no systemic effect. You can put whatever dinosaur you want in your park, as long as they're in each of the pens. There are many dinosaur designs in terms of the recipes. There are not despite the variety of dinosaur tokens, not all dinosaur recipes are represented.
Yes.
So you will have a bunch of dinosaurs, especially like expansion. But as a number of them, like there's no match, so it's okay. It works.
So with the base game, you go through a number of rounds trying to build your park. The number of rounds, of course, varies depending on the game because the end game is only triggered once all but one objective have been accomplished. And the thing about accomplishing objectives is that not only is it the timer for the entire game.
Or wasn't also another trigger is if a certain point threshold is hit? No. It's just the objectives. Okay.
Yeah, it's just the
Wow, it's been a while.
objectives.
Okay.
Yeah. So part of the challenge in the game is that when point objectives are scored, no one else can score them in succeeding rounds. So if during the phase that you were able to time scoring them, you're the only one who qualified.
Then you were the only one who gets the points. But if another player can also score the same objective in the round that you scored it, then you each get the points. So
Actually,
that's
in
a
the
tricky
phase,
mechanic.
not the round.
Yeah, even in the round, it's the phase.
Yeah.
So it's quite tricky, which is a brilliant mechanic. But then, to be fair, that's just one way to score points. You will score more also based on the excitement of your park and the number of dinosaurs you have, the types of dinosaurs in terms of what points they're worth. So there's like a lot of worker placement games, there's still a variety of ways to score. You could have a park that barely has dinosaurs and instead focus on attractions and just have like roller coasters and restaurants, and that viably could work if you play your cards right. Look, it doesn't fit.
Now, even if the game feels like it's easy to tell who's winning based on what you can see on the board, there are many ways that people still sneak in surprise points. Certain specialists give you points depending on having certain amusements or certain dinosaur types. Others are able to cash in on points depending on certain setups. So a lot of the game is actually, playing as good as you can before time runs out and then hoping you still stole the win. And that's just the base game. This is really big.
It's really too fat.
Because the game came out with an expansion.
Have I scanned these boxes? I
And
can't
it's
remember.
totally liquid. The Extreme Edition, because we got it through Kickstarter.
It's another. So there's a standard, and then there's of course the. It's crazy.
Totally Liquid is still designed by the same group. However, I think there was a third one who joined them this time. Let me double check real quick. So the first one was Brian Lewis and Jonathan Gilmore, but Totally Liquid adds Ian Moss to the group that worked with it. Here in Totally Liquid, as you can see, it has a nice cover that again has the 90s, late 80s vibe. it adds a whole new set of different expansions to the game.
Actually, yeah. So it's kind of like when you get the Splendor expansion, and it's really Cities of Splendor, and all these mini expansions put together. So this game also adds many different elements to the game.
One of the first thing it really adds, however, oh, where'd it go?
It was there. It was there.
Oh, I think we added it already.
What?
The other player?
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, I think we added it in the base. That's why it's too heavy. So it adds a fifth player, which then expands on the phase 1 and 2 areas, because now there has to be more spaces to accomplish things. It has a lot more different cards, everything from new solo rules that relate to the new system, new objectives and plot twists that relate to the new cards. It adds what we call PR cards, which are then certain bonuses that may happen as well. And it adds a new expansion known as Blueprints.
Because, what's more fun than making a dinosaur park? Than making a dinosaur park that follows a plan that can give you more points. And it will specify the types of dinosaurs you need to have, the types of attractions, and where to put them on your board. And that can be frustrating. Especially when someone's gobbling up all the food.
Beyond just adding new dinosaurs, the game also adds a new type of dinosaur. And these are the types that have to live in pens of water. Oops, that was...
Yeah,
that was correct.
It's right side up. It's
these
the aquatics, or the water, the swimming dinosaurs.
have their own type of pens, which generally follow the same rules, but can be quite intense because you cannot help but want to grab them in the game, even if they're not really mechanically different. All the more it adds new dice. It adds a huge bag of new pieces, everything from additional dinosaurs, including the Mega Rex, as you can see up there, that big Rex there. The blue ones, of course, are the aquatic dinosaurs. And then you have all these other small expansions, everything from certain specialists to
goats.
They're goats, which can be spent in order to appease the hunger of dinosaurs.
Or that weird baby dinosaur petting zoo thing.
Yeah, so you have all these different new facilities, as you can see here. There's the goat facility, there's the touring place, there's the dinosaur incubator, there's the petting zoo, as you can see here in the smaller corner. As you probably noticed, we haven't popped everything out, and it was because it was our way of seeing which ones we haven't tried.
Yeah.
But yes,
it gives additional designs of dinosaurs, but also additional dinosaurs to just add to the mix, because it also tries to support another player for the game.
And most importantly, you have your goats.
Why are the goats the most important?
Oops.
It's running away from you. So yeah. So Dinosaur Island actually is a very tight strategy game. And babies. Why are there baby carnivores in the petting zoo? I don't know. He's crazy. So what are your pros and cons? So the game again is surprisingly deep with variable length of time.
Yes.
So you can map out your game as a short, medium, or a long game.
Yes.
Which is a beautiful piece of customization. Because sometimes, I mean, like, as much as Toby will always joke like, hey, you want to play a quick game of Through the Ages? That game is always going to last us about 2 hours. Whereas in Dinosaur Island, depending on what other games we're going to play that game night, we can choose, like, I think we have enough time for a medium game, or we can totally do a long game, all these things. It's great flexibility for what are typically very heavy, complex games to add to any game night. I mean, like, we love our Through the Ages, we love Caverna, but it's a commitment of time if you're going to play. So that's one thing to note for sure. What he's trying to do. It's heavy.
Yes. What else? The game is deep and complex, but not complex to the point of through the ages.
That's
So
true.
even if you're new to worker placement games, it won't feel as daunting. Games like Caverna are probably still heavier than this.
Literally.
And in many ways,
They use wood.
this is also much more forgiving than games like Caverna.
That's true.
Because in this game, while not being able to handle the threat level does lead to people being eaten, and that does lead to you losing points, we have learned that doesn't necessarily mean you're losing the game.
Toby, of course, has experimented with sacrificing people to the dinosaurs because it may be worth the dinosaur points at the end of the game, especially when you're building the big carnivores.
I didn't experiment. I just wanted my pets to be happy.
But that's, like many games of this nature, there are a lot of times you can be like that, where you'll decide, hey, what if today I will do this? Like, I'm going to build a restaurant empire. Will that win me the game? And you can totally take things in that direction. Is the game solid without the expansion? Oh, definitely. The base Dinosaur Island is a beautiful experience that if you ever nerded out after over Jurassic Park, the book and or the movie, this totally works. It totally works. It's super fun. And because the phases are clearly labeled, it's actually quite easy to pick up the rules once you get through the rhythms. And then, as much as it's a worker placement game, you never actually have to compete for worker spots with other players. You do compete in drafting, but that will go around the table, over time. But in terms of your actual actions, it's really based on what you've built in your park and how many workers you have. So it's really up to you.
The worker placement is really more what actions will you choose to do this turn. But of course, whereas most worker placement games had people competing to grab certain action spots, here it's for the rest of the game. Because you were able to grab that facility, no one else can use that slot for the rest of the game. There aren't that many repeating facilities, but there are as well a set of universal facilities, the one that every player can buy.
Yes, the standard upgrade.
So it is nice in that way. You might feel like, you failed to get that tile you really wanted to get. But you'll realize that the game still offers opportunities.
Even just think about DNA, where the first phase is where everybody does DNA, gathers DNA from the dice, which is a drafting mechanic. And then, but if you still didn't get the DNA you need, you could potentially purchase them during the next purchasing phase. And if that still didn't work, you can still combine DNA on your own on the slot that is built into your player board, which can be upgraded to be used twice. So, I mean, the game doesn't want you to feel frustrated that your whole turn breaks because you lost out in the draft of whether the DNA or the attractions or stuff. And that aspect is great. And thus, there are times like you don't have enough money to purchase buildings or hire specialists, and you'll just end up like, I'll just skip my action and get 2 money. But it's okay because you might still recover. So you just roll with what you got.
Mitch asked about the goats. Did we answer that? I didn't quite.
What are the purpose of the goats?
So basically, if the threat level is too high, you can sacrifice some goats to bring it down.
What are they gonna do to the goat? Mr. Grant! Okay. Now asking good number of players for this game.
So 2 is still okay, but for the real, for a better balanced version of Dinosaur Island, there is a specific 2-player version of the game that we will cover as a separate episode.
Dinosaur Island.
It still generally follows the concept of the game, but does change the mechanics somewhat. So it's not like other games wherein the 2-player mode is just
special rules for 2 players. Yeah.
However, the base game still does have 2 players as an option.
And 1 player.
Yeah. It's just that if you want a more cutthroat fight between each other,
a richer experience,
the Dualosaur version is good.
But yeah, I think
we played this with 4 and it still works.
Normally, like in games that like this where it like goes up to 4 players, you might actually argue that 3 is the sweet spot or something. But I would totally disagree that a full 4-player game still doesn't feel like it takes too long because again, the main action phase where you're like assigning workers happens on your respective boards. So actually, phase 3, you don't even have to wait for each other. You just gotta go act and put your people as where you need them to. And the game doesn't significantly slow down with an additional player. The game duration is really determined by the difficulty you've chosen at the beginning, whether it's a short, medium, or long game. So that for factors like that, it's like I would go anyway. Any number of players.
Player order shifts depending on who has the least points at the end of the round. Purchasing stuff, of course, still follows play order, which is always an interesting proposition of balancing that act of keeping your points the lowest but still close enough to the rest of the pack. So you always have the advantage of first pick, but still stay behind everyone else.
Do we feel, again, how do you feel about the expansion?
I'd love to explore it more. We haven't really played the expansion as much. We've had a few sessions with the expansion. The tricky part with the expansion is that since there's many, and yes, you can combine them, you realize that there's different iterations to explore when you play with the expansion. So we've played with the dinosaur.
We played this expansion twice. We played the aquatic. We played with the blueprints.
Yeah, and then I think we tried adding a special feature.
Yeah, we didn't do the petting zoo yet.
Yeah,
we didn't do the goats yet.
Yeah, I think we tried I think that one was that place where you could do the 3D something, and then the other one was the lab, I think.
On the whole, the pros and cons, I think, of the totally liquid expansion is that it's like, It's like our challenge with Galaxy Trucker because we have the anniversary edition where it's a great game, but then it you feel like you need to give players a few game sessions to really get into it and really get used to it. And then that's the only time you want to start introducing expansion so that they still feel like they have a chance to absorb the additional rule sets. So our bigger challenge is always constantly teaching people the base game and then trying to work our way towards adding the expansion. The aquatic dinosaurs is the easiest thing to add on to any game. So even if you're teaching first-time players, you can probably throw in the aquatics because it's just another dinosaur type.
Yes.
But beyond that, it gets really tricky. And it's not a bad kind of tricky though, because I've seen expansions that it feels like it needlessly adds difficulty just to say it's an expansion. I still think the level of challenge of the additional add-ons in Totally Liquid are fine. But yeah, you're probably still going to get stuck teaching a lot of the base game. And because the base game is so solid, it's still not a bad thing. Your very first game with new players might be a short game, and then you're going to feel like, we should do a medium game. Then okay, let's do a medium game. So you might go through that iteration cycle before you work your way up to Totally Liquid. How about you? What do you think?
What else?
Because if not, Mitch is asking specifically, what are the cons of the game?
I guess some of the cons would be it's easy to get steamrolled by players who are more accustomed to what's coming. Because the game does have certain cards that nicely synergize. And not being aware of these combos can be very painful. But I guess that goes with any game that has styles that have special powers.
That's
true. Does that and the like.
Yeah.
The threat balance thing can sometimes feel like you have no choice but to do it. And I know some players hate that. It's sort of like in Caverna where you have to make sure you have food for the dwarves. And some people hate the parang, wala, I'll just make food. That's all I can do this turn.
Yeah, we've seen players get locked into I spend all my money to increase security twice because I've maxed out. The security at one point, the value doesn't increase anymore, but it's still quite expensive. So that can be a pain. There's a lot of random in this game. I think, and that's always like a mixed bag for people. Between the DNA dice, what cards are going to come up in the market, and then even just the threat that you can sort of game the threat that's going to be left, but again, it affects your actions. So you may not everyone may like that aspect that because like we've had some weird DNA rules where certain types of DNA never come up. And it's especially if you're playing with fewer than the maximum number of players, you don't play with all the dice in the box. So each of the dice are unique. You get some weird combinations. So that can be pretty annoying. Weird con I will cite is table space.
Yes.
The game needs a lot of table space between the phase 1, phase 2 boards that also need a market out off the board.
And then each player having 2 boards.
With needing space for the specialists in the middle. Not counting where you're going to put your giant money tokens, your rangers, all these things. There's a lot going on in this game.
And it doesn't help that phase 1 has you needing to roll a large number of funky dice.
Yes.
Then placing them down on the board, which then becomes the locations of action spaces for players to put their scientists. So you basically have a completely loaded table, but then a large part of every round is throwing things that might mess things up onto that table, and then asking all the players to reach out and potentially move stuff when they land their hands
risk
on the table.
spilling drinks if they put their glasses on the table.
So it's a tricky thing when it comes to table space. It's probably a non-issue for people who have larger tables or who don't mind having things spread out. But if you, like us, tend to prefer playing on one single table, then
or you do visit other people's places and end up needing to bring this game around. It can be difficult. We recommend a sizable dice tray for rolling. We don't always recommend this, but for this game, it might save you time because you can pass the dice to the first player who will be the one rolling. And then you can safely carry it off board as you server from a tray, distribute them on the proper spaces, and so on and so forth. So space is a significant problem. Not counting your inventory of dinosaurs, buildings, and all these things. And the fact that the market discards cards every turn, cards and tiles, then you need a discard pile. It's like, guys, so many things in this game.
So here's a quick image of what a setup table might look like.
Yeah, and so look, this is phase 1 right there. You can see the dice are laid out. Phase 2, and then look, there are cards sprawled out, and they take up as much space as the board. And then look, these are objectives that are spread out, and then the plot twists are over here, and then the pen inventory and dinosaur inventory and tokens over there, and then respective player boards with specialists in the middle. It's so much!
The last, I guess, con I would state would be the lack of distinct ways to recognize the DNA. In as much as they did try to have that, they did choose 6 distinct colors. They did choose to make certain shapes to try to represent each DNA. Since they were sticking to this psychedelic neon feel for the vibe that they were going for, the design suffered, and it's so hard to tell it's so hard to communicate.
I need the light blue DNA, but the basic one, there's the basic pink, not to be confused with the fuchsia magenta thing in the advanced.
And then someone might confuse magenta with purple because there is also a purple tone. So it has that sad frustration of maybe they could have just given it certain names, like maybe it's a single strand, double strand, triple strand, even if there's no such thing.
Yeah, but DNA A, DNA C, just use the DNA letters. I don't know, but there are 6 types, so you can't do the 4.
So yeah, it has that frustration of there are times wherein sige, I'll put there on the blue DNA. Which one? Which blue?
Because some people argue the purple is blue. I don't know. So it's a challenge, and it's because of the fact that since it's all sprawled out on the board, it is inevitable that you'll have to ask each other for help. Like, please put my scientists on that token.
And lastly, light affects things. So
Mm.
if you're playing in a place with white light, then maybe you see the colors a certain way. But then if you play somewhere else with slightly yellowish light, or maybe you're playing in the afternoon, suddenly, wait, why does that look different?
Golden hour does not help you.
And yeah, so that's one of the cons that this game has, which is, it's quite sad because it's really beautifully done.
There's a lot of love in the design. And then, I mean, sorry, that those player boards, the double layered player board with slots for the cubes,
was very thoughtful.
It's thoughtful because it avoids the classic problem of I nicked my board with my elbow, and then all my delicate tokens lost their place, and you forget how much DNA you have. So you don't have that problem here. See, Terraforming Mars obviously got inspired by boards like this and decided to create their own because it needs it, because that keeps happening in Terraforming Mars. So yeah, it's a bit of a pain. It's the irony of so much love in this aspect, and then this. It's like things like the deluxe edition weighted coins are beautiful, are absolutely beautiful, but are only colored on one side. The other side, they all share the same back without paint. So when you're maintaining the bank, you really have to stack them according to color. Otherwise, it's not helpful. And then you're kind of like, how much money do you have? So,
and dropping them on your foot is painful.
Oh God, those coins are really heavy, guys. The coins are really heavy, and you're going to be reaching these coins across the table to pay the bank. Like I purchased this, blah 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 blah. So yeah, it's a pitch.
So all in all, I think the pros still outweigh the cons.
We still love this game,
and
we still super love this game.
And with that, I guess we can go to strategy. Don't fall in love with the dinosaur species too much. There is a huge advantage in getting certain combinations depending on how you're approaching the game. Calculating the opportunities to be gained from getting a huge carnivore can net you huge points because every dinosaur is worth so many points. But you must be willing to either do the investment for security or let some visitors bite the bullet. Don't get so preoccupied with wanting a certain dinosaur type that you fail to realize you're not ready for it. As odd as it sounds, the combination of DNA needed for each dinosaur might look like they're all the same, but they actually have a small difference in terms of mechanics and how you can get one or the other.
Especially
when you realize how common or how frequent certain DNA comes.
Yeah, and especially once you have like a feel for which DNA dice are in play, if you're not playing with a full 4 players, then it's really going to matter. Like, hey, wait,
there's always yellow.
Yeah, I'm not seeing green or things like that. So you may want to think about the dinosaurs you get. And then
never overlook the upgrade that allows you to create more than one dinosaur.
Yeah.
Because at the basic tile, you're only able to create one
dinosaur per turn.
And if you don't get the upgrade that allows you to create more than one per turn, you will suffer long term really fast.
Yeah, because especially as depending on the duration of the game, and as people start scoring objectives, then oh my God, ouchies, major ouchies if you don't catch it. I keep thinking of a suggestion and then I lose it because I listen to your suggestion, which is great. Well, one is keep. And I know it goes without saying, but really, keep close tabs on the objectives.
Yes.
You must. As sometimes, if you see that another player is working their way to scoring an objective, you might have to pivot and try to match because you might not be able to stop them from scoring. There is no direct play. There are very few player interaction moments, but it's not bad to match them and achieve it on the same phase.
Yes.
Then at least you're denying, at least the two of you get the points and the others don't.
Alternately, if you're sure you're building towards a certain objective and you notice others aren't building to it yet, you might not have to rush and score it. Because since let's say looking at it, you can score it in one turn. Then you can spend the next few turns trying to reach other objectives. And everyone else is thinking, oh, he's forgotten. And they'll now focus on trying to catch up on that objective, allowing you, therefore, to cause them to lose some turns as you score too.
And then that sounds very specific, Toby. There is a delicate balance between excitement and park capacity. Okay. The main point of getting bigger and more dangerous dinosaurs is that they have higher excitement.
Yes.
Excitement is sort of like reputation in suburbia and determines how many people will go to your park. But attracting more people to your park without slots to put them in wastes the potential victory
Yes.
points
Because they
earn.
won't pay if they don't go in.
Yeah. No, they pay entrance. You just can't.
They don't get the points.
You get money. You get
Yes.
money. You don't
Yes.
get points.
Yes.
So things like sometimes you might have invested so much in security and a few very dangerous dinosaurs, but you don't have many spots to put
The
people in the guest. Then you're gonna lose out. So try to balance it out with classic attractions. Those little roller coasters and other rides in the park help add to your park capacity, or restaurants, because restaurants always provide that option of, do I get points this turn or do I get money this turn? And that's a nice bit of flexibility.
Don't underestimate the amusements that give you points outright. They might not feel like they do anything for you, but you'd be surprised how much of a boost that helps in the end of the game.
Yeah, because you don't have to do effort. It's just like, because some attractions, but not all, have printed victory points on them. And they have no other benefits. They don't have slots. They don't give rewards. But sometimes they're not that bad. They tend to be a good investment for the money you have to spend for it. I mean, there's lots of ways around it.
Now, normally you'll only be allowed 3 specialists. There is a certain tile that allows you to have a 4th. However, don't be afraid to fire an existing specialist to replace them if you have a better one coming in. Just bear in mind that a lost specialist can remove the benefits you got. So, example, if the specialist gives you an extra worker, then firing that specialist loses that worker as well. So pay attention to that.
Yeah, and admittedly, sometimes I go for specialists just because of the extra worker. And there is no special reward for maxing out workers sometimes, but it's
But
nice.
it's still extra moves.
Yeah, it's the moves that matter, and especially because there's no point in buying the upgrades to the basic slots that let you mix a second type of DNA for turn, or let you have another dinosaur baby this turn, if you don't have the workers to place it. So that's something to consider. And then don't underestimate the weird slot on your board that lets you get money, which is like in values of 3, 2, and 1. Sometimes just making sure you leave one worker every turn for the 3 is great, because then it's like additional income that's totally worth the action.
Yeah.
In addition to the ticket price that everybody pays for. Mitch was asking earlier, do we have favorite dinosaurs in the game?
I know I always want to get the T-Rex just to be able to say I have a T-Rex in my park. But I know I deeply, deeply, deeply want to have the Brontosaurus, just so I can really use those figures and have them on the park. I know Flip is obsessed over the Triceratops, so I always try to grab it when it appears just to annoy him.
Figure denial. Yeah, I don't have a strong affinity for any of them. I think I keep getting, like, my early dinosaur is almost always the Hadrosaur, the duck-billed horn one, because I don't know, it's like, I start with the mummy, and then later on I'll just get others. I end up getting the Ankylosaurus because people forget about him, and he's like squat and low to the ground and with a big club for a tail. So as much as there's the delicate balance and excitement, don't feel bad if you only have herbivores.
Yeah,
you can still win. You can still win with just herbivores because you're saving money on security upgrades, and instead you can probably buy attractions. Just balance
rides, because rides are always super expensive.
Yeah, or just more dinosaurs, because just getting more types of dinosaurs doesn't necessarily mean the other players will max out the number of dinosaurs per tile. And maxing out that doesn't just increase excitement and gives you victory points for dinosaurs, but it opens up additional guest slots for the attraction. Remember that the number of dinosaurs in the pen is the number of guests that can watch said dinosaurs in terms of park capacity. So it's a nice little relationship that doesn't necessarily feel economical from creating slots versus another attraction, because there are rides that will give you 3 to 4 slots. But it's still not bad, and it's like it still checks off multiple boxes, and there are always objectives related to the types of dinosaurs, the number of dinosaurs, the number of dinosaurs created in a single turn. You're more likely to achieve those things with herbivores. But yeah, I think that's all I got for Dinosaur Island strategy.
I guess the last one I could add is if you're always unlucky like me, grab them security guards. Because more often than not, despite there being only 10 hooligans in a bag of more than 50 other tokens, of the 6 you will grab, 5 will be hooligans. So have them security guards to throw them back into the bag in hopes of getting different ones.
It's so weird. Toby can be the first player, the first person to draw from the bag.
But I'll be able to draw 11! Hooligan, 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 hooligan!
And remember, hooligans run to the line first,
Don't pay
entrance, and they take up slots. They will still earn you victory points, but the no money thing is annoying. The no money thing is annoying.
No, they don't earn you victory points.
They don't earn also. It's a waste of slot.
They don't do anything. They're nothing.
They're just crap.
They're so super annoying.
And they don't get eaten by dinosaurs.
Which is why the security guards are so helpful because they'll stop them from coming
Toby
in.
almost always get actually what they don't the security guys that you throw them back and draw the same amount.
Yes.
And then there's the other one the that makes them pay entrance.
Yes. So I try to grab those whenever they appear. I need them.
And then there's some weird ones, like there's like the chaos theorist who's like gives you random DNA per turn and stuff. And these aren't, I mean, they're intimidating to get something that's like, what am I gonna do with random shit? But they're not bad because it's free DNA you're not paying for.
And then you can always use that DNA
to mix
to create the other DNA you might need. So that's always going to be useful.
So it's a fun combination. Yeah, that's Dinosaur Island.
Yes.
I just love taking pictures of the dinosaurs, and this guy the last time we played, he became the entrance to my park. You just line up all the people here and welcome to Rocky Park. So we spared no expense.
How would you compare this to Unfair, which is our other amusement park here?
Okay,
because we don't have other amusement park games.
Yeah, that's true. Unfair, it took us a while to warm up to Unfair, especially after playing Dinosaur Island.
And Unfair is cards only. It
Yeah.
doesn't really have minis or a map.
Yeah, and considering your park in Unfair will probably be like almost often like 5 attractions wide only from the gate. Then it's like it doesn't feel as big. Whereas Dinosaur Island, it's like, oh my god, I'm building my dinosaur park. And then you see the size of that phase 4 board. In the beginning, you will rarely fill up that board.
Yes.
And then once you start with the expansion with the blueprint and like, holy crap, challenge accepted. I want to fill up the board. So that I think that whole like if you played games like Sim Theme Park or Theme Park back in the day, or Sim Roller Coaster, whatever, Roller Coaster Tycoon, then you will get more of that vibe from this game, plus dinosaur meeples. And the strategy I feel like is a lot more balanced out. Unfair really lives up to its name. And the higher difficulty, once those twists come out, it can feel unfair. Unfair is brutal at times.
Yes.
And then the mixing and matching of theme park styles, like the dinosaur and the ninja and the whatnot, didn't really feel like an amazing upgrade.
It was fun to imagine that you have a Western vampire ride or
with a ninja
alien ninja ride, but it never felt like it really went anywhere other than, I have 2 symbols in this
the symbol counting kind of didn't make as much sense as compared to here, like my park has a roller coaster and an ice cream stand and this old security guard walking around. It's like there's a story that you really build about your park. Whereas in Unfair, you're probably going to stack as many upgrades as you can on a single attraction because you get some more points.
And I guess this one also had that nonsensical joy of deciding where things go. So, you might have your park, and even if you're not playing with the blueprints, I'll have my carnivore here in the back. And then I'll put all my food stuff here. That feels like they have to buy.
Because you're not limited to it's not like Caverna where you must grow outward from the entrance. You can put them anywhere you want at the park.
But at the same time, that can bite you back later. I don't have space. No, I can't move stuff.
Or worse, I have the wrong shape. Because the dinosaur token is
always long.
Yeah, and the attractions are just small.
So it's interesting that you have those little moments in this game. And I guess to close, is there an expansion or something you'd want to see as if there ever was another expansion for
I don't
Dinosaur
know.
Island?
I must admit, because I was super happy with the base game, even Totally Liquid, I wasn't super excited. Although the aquatic dinosaurs are a fun addition just for the designs and to say that I have a water dinosaur. But I mean, let's be honest here. The water dinosaurs were never as cool as the land dinosaurs. Speaking as a dinosaur nerd, so you really go with the base game. So in terms of an expansion mechanic, I would want. I don't know, maybe a legacy thing. Should we overlay a campaign onto it? Then you get
inspired by the movies.
Yeah, so then it can feel very Jurassic Park.
Serial numbers filed off. Of course.
Yeah. Then return to the island. There are existing attractions that you buy at half price, but you're forced because they're on your player
this
board.
card and it says eaten in the bathroom, lose a worker. And stuff like that.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, and I don't necessarily think the game needs it, but maybe things like that, consequences, direct player interaction. There's not much going on the player front. So maybe that, but that's just that's just gravy. It's you don't need it really. You don't.
I'd probably go for an expansion wherein the Phase 3 board will be slightly changed. Wherein there are no need for pens.
Phase 4 board.
Yeah, well, the Phase 3 board will be changed. So there will be no need for pens for Phase 4. Because now your Phase 3 board doesn't keep track of security and threat, but instead keeps track of some sort of biodiversity balance.
Oh, then it's
of having carnivores
then it's really
and herbivores in an open park. Because you now have to make sure they don't just eat each other out as you build your park.
It's the boat. It's the boat with the cabbages, the goat, and the wolf.
It's the island as your dinosaur island.
That could work.
So
that's
that's
a free idea for you Pandasaurus games. Give us a campaign mode and give us the
open island,
the free roaming island.
And then when you get your aquatics, they're outside the island because they represent they're in the.
But they can still eat you.
So yeah, I love something like that. And then maybe to balance that all out, everyone now starts with a character. Because you have the
player
specific
ability, character
character
powers.
who has certain, this one is always good at calming carnivores, and this one is always good at cloning.
This one can read poop.
Or this one is the marketing genius. Well, generates money.
Which to be fair, you can base them off of specialist roles and just make a named specialist, things like that. Which is oh my god, what if your starting character with abilities throughout the game is the HR manager? It's whoa! I can have as many specialists as I want. Or I start the game with a free special. I don't know, something like that. So there are options, guys. There are many options.
But yes, that is Dinosaur Island.
Before we go, the last thing is deluxe edition and extreme edition of Totally Liquid. Worth it?
I'd say yes.
Totally yes. I can't imagine. I mean, I'm sure the base game is still beautiful and stuff, but the upgraded components really make a difference.
And it wouldn't feel the same if your board was just filling with cubes.
That's true. And then plus, even little things like the scientists replaced with Erlenmeyer Flask tokens. It's such a nice detail versus a generic 1, 2, 3 token.
Yeah,
so yeah, The coins are a mixed bag. I don't know. I mean, the coins are very heavy metal coins, the kind that make your fingers smell like metal after. But it works out.
And I even wonder about the coins because they're super thick. Diba? They're not even, parang they're casino chips, but metal.
But metal, not
chips.
plastic.
Yeah.
That's why I compare them to Splendor tokens, but they're heavy. They're very heavy. But they add a lot to the game. I mean, you know, that's part of the fun. Why are the metal coins? I mean, I guess they're more reminiscent of like amusement park tokens.
Yeah,
but like really heavy ones, not like the Chipipa Glicos ones from the later 90s, but maybe the earlier ones that were like really distinct. So yeah. Okay.
So
Dinosaur Island.
That's Dinosaur Island. Both the base game and Totally Liquid. But that's all the time we have for now. We had a lot of fun, and we hope you'll join us again next time.
If you have questions or suggestions for future episodes, games that you might want us to feature on future Monday nights, then fill out the Google form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas. You can follow us on Twitter, Altobe No Shade, RG Sunico.
You can also check out our blog, baduypride.com, for all the previous episodes and stuff about us.
Feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below. What dinosaurs do you want in your dinosaur park? And how many people are you going to feed them? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is Baduy Pride. Have a good night.